we're going to talk about today is something that's very close to my heart and also very close to what has influenced me in a very lifelong nature, and that's the importance of master musician and creator Charles Lloyd. The importance not only as a musician, but the importance of his effect upon our culture as far as when he immersed on the scene, what he's been about as far as a leader, and also somebody who has had a profound influence on many, many people in many, many different ways. For me, it started when I was in high school. I bought a Chico Hamilton record, and I heard this tenor player, and I had yet to really hear Lester Young. You know, we did not have the availability of all the internet resources and things, so recordings and stuff were at a minimum. And there was this tenor player who played also flute with some of these things with Chico. And it was quite interesting because later Charles used a phrase called "my music dances on many shores." And what I was hearing was the absolute rapture in the way he played the tenor. Yet this blues feeling was engulfing these things so great that it was almost like all these idiomatic things, but it was wrapped up in a person's personality at a very early period in a career, you know, professionally. So as time went on, I went back to that same record store where I was taking music lessons, by the way, and I picked up this, Discovery by Charles Lloyd. Richard Davis is on here, Roy Haynes. This contains Sweet Georgia Bright, a beautiful version of the Days of Wine and Roses, and some incredible blowing by Charles. My point is that recording I basically wore out. This is the original. Years later I found another copy and used it as my backup. There are things on there that I have yet to hear many tenor saxophone players even come close to today. And I'm talking about not only just the blues feel, because Charles was from Memphis, but also the real emotional impact and the drive of he had to play. And you could hear this passion rolling out like the surf. It was amazing. Also, within that came recordings afterwards. The most famous one, I believe, might have been Of Course, Of Course. That was also recently reissued. Thank God, because that music I know has influenced many people from my generation, many guitarists, you know, and many bands that are playing with a guitar and, you know, a more modern drummer, you know, like Tony and Ron and things like that. Then after that, of course, Charles's career in the Fillmore and in the group that he had with Jack and Keith, it just went another direction and completely gained a momentum that was inspiring to me. Also, he was playing some incredible music, but the leadership factors of what was going on, the way he played Forest Flower, and never quite made that tune something that was a signature tune, but it was always different in some way, shape, or form. Of course, when he plays a solo, he's one of the greatest cases of non-cliches. Charles's solos, there's always a beginning and a middle and an end, and that's one of the greatest aspects in music. You hear that in people like Bird, Prez, and many other great masters. But Charles, those periods were really amazing to me. And then to hear like what was going on when I started to backtrack, and I heard you know, some live performance tapes, you know, through the years of him playing flute. And I saw the band play on a double bill when I was in high school here in Pennsylvania. And I have to say, It was the original group with Keith and Jack. Every time I've seen Charles, there's been something about it that I've always left with, that was one of the greatest concerts I ever saw. Recently, I heard the concert in New York with Zakir and Eric, and it was a very interesting concert. It was in the summer, about the same time as now, like around July. A friend of mine was hanging with me at my house, Jennifer Hall, a great woodwind player from LA. And I also brought along my New York friend, who is a great baritone player as well, Claire Daly. And I wanted to introduce Jennifer and Claire in my own way within this Charles concert, because I knew that they would both get along. And they both flipped when they heard the music. Jennifer had not checked in on Charles's music in a while. Claire was very well aware of what was going on. But this concert, getting to that, it was so amazing because everybody that was at this concert was mesmerized. I left saying, and I still believe it, that might have been, and I think it was to this day, until I see Charles again with that particular crew. See, he always seems to overlap himself with me. Like, you know, I'll go to the Blue Note and I'll hear his band with Jerry, or the older band he recently had, and I'll say, that was one of the best concerts I've ever heard in my life. And then I'll hear him with Zakir, and I'll say, that was the best concert I heard in my life. And that night in July, that summer, I still can hear that music in my mind. It had a profound impact on me. The emotional level of where that band was, as far as they were tuned into each other, there was a certain homage to the music also. Zakir and Charles, I mean, the path that was going on, along with Eric's drumming, unbelievable. You would have had to have been there, but it was really one of the most fantastic things I ever heard in my life. Charles also, not only in that area, but in some other areas recently, has started playing alto again. And I was crazy as a kid about his flute playing. You know, I heard Sombrero Sam and some of the things on Of Course, and, you know, that was one of the reasons that I really wanted to get near the flute. I had already been playing tenor, and I started to hear that, and that was amazing, you know, flute playing. But what he started to do recently was go back to the alto also, and when he started to play the alto, Claire and I just looked at each other and shook our heads. It was out of this world, and I've told Charles this quite many times. He is the ultimate multi-instrumentalist. His personality on each of these horns, you can tell it's him playing, which is the mark of a great jazz improviser. But the actual discipline that he's put into his craft, aside of just being Charles Lloyd, is completely, this man has studied the music from every possible angle, and he's put that in. But when he gets on the bandstand, he plays. You follow what I'm saying? So, with that in mind, hopefully sometime you're going to see Charles Lloyd, and you're going to feel the same way as I did. That's some of the best music I've heard. And also, I hope this opens your eyes to the many facets of Charles. And also, I can share some things with you at a future date about my friend, and also huge inspiration to this music and importance to the world around us. Thank you for listening.